So for the purposes of the recording, we are going to go over contracts, which is a new item in the new version. And so you can create contracts in the new version, and you create templates. You can have as many templates as you want. You can make them global. You can make them program area specific. Basically, the first thing that you have to do is create the atmosphere, I would say, that you have that capability. So always go to your funding opportunity, because again, the funding opportunity is going to drive a lot of your forms. So I'm going to look in here at my grant tab, and I have to make sure that contracts is there. So if you don't see contracts here and it's a document, then you want to make sure you add it by clicking Add Grant Forms. The other item that you have to notice now that you never have seen before in your forms is a contract. So this contract tab, you need to make sure that you have the contract text there. If you have the contract text there, you're ready. If not, you would add the contract text. That's your template. The other thing we have to do in the funding opportunity is go into the general information, and under the general information, we have to actually set our approval rules. So we have to set how many levels of approval we want for the contract. So I set mine at 2, and then signatures. Now you would not have to set the signature rules unless you are actually allowing the external and internal users to sign the contract within the system. Now, this may not be something that you guys can utilize. I am going to show you that today, but again, you know, you may have a legal obligation to make sure you have, a wet signature. So this is just something that's in there, but if you didn't use it, you certainly wouldn't set the contract signatures. You just keep it at 0. Okay. Once we set up the funding opportunity, then we want to go into utilities. Not everybody will have access to this. I would imagine everybody on this meeting would, but there may be people in your office that will never have access to the contract template. And that's where the contract template is created for your, and I'm just going to click on this and show you. And you would just add a new template. So let me show you that feature. You would add the template title, call it whatever you want. You would make it active, and the type. Now we can have many types. So that would be something that you would just contact the TPI and say, I want this type under here. It doesn't matter how many, you're unlimited as far as how many types. Your program area, so you can make it global. You could make it very program area specific, or you could have that same template for many, many programs. And your contract text. So now I'm going to, and you would just save. That's how you would start to create a new one. I'm going to take you into the one that I've already created and show you basically, if I edit this, what it's going to look like. And I'm going to leave it like this right now because this is really key. Substitutions are the substitutions that you can utilize in the system under grants, under people, under orgs. So grant forms, grant sections, grant fields. You cannot use awards. You cannot use application forms. It must be at the grant level. So when we go through this today, a lot of people are like, well, I have to, get information from the application, or I have to get information from the award. If you need that information, then you would have to copy or link your form to the grant. And that application form would have to be setting as a grant form. There are other workarounds that you can do if you need information from other areas in the system, and that is create a grant form. You would have to enter it manually, but then pull it in at that level. So again, grant, organization, and people. Here are some of them that we just put up helpful hints, because these are things that commonly you're going to find. And they, if you can see this, they have this bracket. So this bracket is very important. I'm going to actually blow up the screen so you can see it. When you put that in brackets, that's telling the system to pull from either the grant, again, the people, or the org, and you can do entire sections or fields. In this case, it is truly the field. So you see grant dot title, just like a calculation works. Only you're going to specify whether it's grant, org, or people. I'm also going to blow this up. You can copy and paste. This is truly a rich text editor field, just like you see in your own forms that you create for your sub-recipients, your grantees. In this, we can add logos, and I have basically put in bold all of the items that I want to pull from each grant. So when I get to that grant, that specific grant, it will automatically pull this information from the grant. This that is not in bold is your static verbiage that doesn't change. So this language will not change. This is going to be in every contract. And that's the information that doesn't change. This is truly what changes, is this information here. Okay? We have helped clients create 40 pages or more in a contract, along with their addendums, attachments, things like that they might have. So you can do quite a bit in here. There is some formatting because you obviously have to keep it to the width of the page. The system does help you somewhat, but you know, you're definitely going to have to do some formatting in here. You know, you can pick your style or the actual paragraph format, the font, the size. You know, you can have red text or whatever in here. So just so you're aware of that. Also, there's your paste from Word. This is very, very important. If you can keep as much formatting as possible, if you have a Word document currently for your contracts, you must use this paste from Word. It will even work with a PDF if you can copy and paste PDF. It may not keep the format as nice. So this is what the contract looks like. So, you know, I copied and pasted a contract in here, and then I set about actually creating my fields. So that's how I did it. So any questions about this portion? This is the contract template. This is what you'll actually see when you get to the grant level. Any questions? Okay, once you create your contract, that's when you can go into your grant, and you can even have your grant use the contract in awarded status. And again, that's at the funding opportunity. You can say, I want to use contracts at the awarded status, and they won't see anything but the contract if you're going to have them sign within the system. I wouldn't advise that unless truly you're having it signed within the system. Okay? You also have a contract search up here. So I'm going to click on this search. And again, this search, you can do it by grant, the status, program area, your funding opportunity, whatever you need. Okay? If I click search, this is what actually comes up. And this is one that I've already executed. So I want to show you what that looks like. So if you get an executed contract, it's going to provide you all the information like it does for the grant, or even a claim, like if you're looking at a claim. And then that extra signature, and then your contract text. And again, yours are going to look totally different. I can come up here And I have many options to print this. And this is where even if you are not going to have them sign within the system, you'd want to be able to like print it to PDF. We've even given you an option to print in landscape for multi-lists that you might have to have that may have quite a few fields on there. If you have the print to PDF without header, which I would assume most of you are going to use, this is without this information. So if I go up here and I say print without header, and again, you'd have to format this accordingly to get it so it fits on the page. You have page breaks, everything. This is what it would basically look like. You would have everything in your contract text, but you would not have all of the information from the signatures up. So just making you aware. Okay, so I'm going to go into my grant, and I'm going to bring up my grant number, which I think is test 1. Actually, I need to log in. I want to log in. So first thing I'm going to do is log in as the internal user. I don't want to use my login. I want to show you what it looks like if it's an internal user. So if I go into grant tracking, I'm going to put my grant number in again. And then I'm going to go down and you'll see the contract right here. So I click on the contract. It already has my one that's in executed status because again, you may have more than one if you have to do a contract amendment. So you could have your contract amendment form in here as well as, any contracts, any, agreements, whatever you need that needs an approval process that we don't already have in the system, you can certainly use this for. To add a contract, I would come in here and click add, and then I would start in editing. I would find my template. And again, this is driven by what your template actually, you created it with program area, whether it was global or multiple program areas. I can also title this. So I could actually say contract amendment, something like that. I can put it with a start date and leave the end date open if it truly is an amendment from the other one. And I could go back to the executed one and say, put a note on there that, it was executed for this date, or you can put your final date of the grant. It's whatever you want. Once it's executed, though, the actual contract is locked down. You cannot change it. So I'm going to go ahead and put today's date. Oh. And I'm going to say the same. And I'm going to save it. That was my general information. Now this is my contract text. So when I click on it, it will automatically come in like the template. Okay, and this is what it's going to look like. If I have the refresh from template, it's because I have actually changed my template while this was still in editing or submitted. And any changes you make back at the template, when you click refresh from template, it will actually pull in those changes and update basically at the grant level. Now, it doesn't impact anything that's already in executed status. It's only going to affect things that are in editing, submitted, and approved. But if it's already has executed, then only the changes that you make will appear in the new grant contracts that you're creating. I also have an edit contract here. I can actually edit this. And I can make this specific. Let me maximize my screen. I can come in here and I can make this specific if I see something that I need to change in here and say I'm going to put it right here. Tina made a change to this grant contract. Okay, I can save it. So I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to save it. It will show. However, I'm going to advise against this the majority of the time, because if somebody comes up and clicks your refresh from template, and it says right there that it will be lost, that is no longer going to appear there. So you're better off, again, if it's an application form or some field that you need, either create a grant form if you can't copy it down or don't want to, or it's coming from awards. But you have to be very careful if you're typing in here, if you're actually editing this. Now we have to have an edit button because some people will, but I would simply tell you to be very cautious. So I'm going to save this. And when I have it the way I want, I will mark it as complete. When I do, it puts it in editing status. Okay, I can now submit. Okay, I've submitted it. Now it's in submitted status and ready for an approval process. And you can have up to 5 approvals. So again, you must set up your people and your for either your approval level and or your signatures. Okay, so it's very important that you actually go back to the people and go, okay, if I have 2 levels on my funding opportunity, then I want to make sure I have 2 levels of approval that I have assigned to someone or more than one person. So make sure you do that as well. When I come down here, I'm already logged in. I gave Cassie Lewis approval level 1 and approval level 2, and I also gave her signature level 1. So I'm going to click on the contract. I can also see it in my work assignments on my dashboard because it was submitted into the system. So now I've got a document approval sitting here and it's got the contract. So I can go into it from my dashboard this way also. I can review it. I can still edit it. I can put feedback, notes. I can withdraw it. I'm going to approve it. So I'm going to click approval, and this works just like your claims or any other document in the system. I have my notify next, and then that will also send out that email. And I click save approval. We're still sitting in submitted because it's looking for that second signature or second approval. Okay, so you can see that Cassie has approved it. I'm going to approve it again because I'm now the second level. And as you can see, there is no more notify next. And there is places for comments. So I can put my comments in here just like I do for claims or status reports or anything. I also can delete the prior level. I'm going to click save. And now it's in approved status. Now it's time for signatures. So I'm the internal user, and I set up myself as the internal user as signature level 1. I set up the grantee on the grant as signature level 2. So signatures, I come in, it looks fairly similar. I type my name, so I have to type Cassie Lewis. This allows the system to know who actually saved it, basically, as the edit and who signed it, because this would let the system know, or you guys know, if someone else was coming in here and signing it for Cassie Lewis. And my date, and I'm going to put internal user, and then my notify next, and this is the grantee. So I click save. Now I have a signature level 1. If I go back into signatures, you can see that it's Kathy, signed, typed, okay, notified next. Now I'm going to log out, and I'm going to log in as the grantee. Now, this is the only portion that we have not designed. So they get an alert, but it's not sitting on their dashboard. Okay? They do get an alert, however. They have to go into their grants, find their grant, go to the contract, click on the one that's in approved, and this is where their signature shows. They do not have any other options for this contract except the signature. So if I click on signatures, I can come in here and I can say signed by Tina Malone, today's date, and my comments. And then I can save it. It's now an executed status and you cannot edit it. They can't edit it, they can print it. Okay? If I log out and I log back in as the internal user, takes a while for the internal, and I go to search grants, find my grant, or I could have done it by the contract search. Go in here, it's an executed. And when I click on it, all I have is notes and feedback. And I can copy this if I want to create a new one. Okay, let's open this up for questions.
Tina, if you have to have a wet signature on that contract, is there a way to save it with that record, or does it have to be something else?
Yeah, definitely. So when you're in grant tracking and you are creating that, you would go no further than the approval process, and that's when you would print. And that's when you would use the print to PDF. We'll act like this one, but you would use the print to PDF without the header. You can actually print this to Word too, but I would assume most of you are going to use a PDF. And then you would have to put your signature fields down here in your template is the only difference, Don. You know,
when you
get come in here and create on your contract template down in utilities for signatures. That would be the difference.
So when you get that contract back signed, where do you save it to in the system? Like typically we'll scan those contracts and then upload them as an attachment in Iowa Grants.
Yeah, so you would in grant tracking, you would probably put it in here under your grant.
But there's not a way to save that contract, that signed contract, with the contract generated in Iowa Grants. Like there's not an attachment field in here.
Yeah, you could put an attachment field right in your contract. You could.
Okay.
So you would go, basically the way you would do it, and she doesn't have access, but you would go down into utilities in the form creator and actually add, an attachment section and then add it to the funding opportunity.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
And then that way it would be there. And that's what I do, click on the wrong thing. And that's what you would do in any case, like, even if you wanted another form with your contract, something that had to, be actually printed out with it. You could attach, your own form so that when you did the print to PDF, I'd make sure it was a PDF, but you could do it that way too, like an addendum or something. So when you did your print to PDF, it would print out also. But you would do that under utilities in the form creator. which by the way, this was brought up, so I'm actually glad we're here to show you. The form creator is going to look totally different than your other one. And we set it up to be easier to access your forms. So first of all, you know, like I see everything, even global. But like for say adult lit, if they come in here and they only have 3 programs, they're only going to see those 3 programs. But it's going to tell you exactly how many applications you have, how many reviews you have, how many grant forms you have, so on and so forth, inventory, contracts, whatever, right? If I click on this status report, I'm going to see all the status reports just like you do in your current system. I also have the in use, so it's there. And here's how I edit my form properties. You know how you guys always have a link and you had to click on the link that was I believe the like type of form or whatever. Here's how you actually edit the form properties. Or if I want to get to the fields, I just click on the form name. And then it pretty much looks pretty standard to what you guys are used to seeing. But that was actually an email we wanted to share with you today. We had, you know, people had questions on it. That's what your forms look like. What I like about it is I can come right up here and I don't have to go back again. We've tried to alleviate the back button in as many places as possible. So if I click on form creator, I can be right back, or I can go into applications. I can turn around. Well, I want to see my grants that I copied those forms to. So, I mean, I don't have to back up. I can go into global just as easy, you know, instead of program area. And you know how yours current system, you're in the program area, then you have to go back to get to global. So we've tried to design this to make this much more user-friendly as far as getting rid of the back button in as many places as we possibly could. The other thing I want to show you that we made a change on was we put back the grants button here. And then we turned around, and if you go into, let's see if I can bring up baseline that I know has a lot on here. We also changed the history. So if I click on the grants here, we put the grants instead of the applications and reviews. Because when you get a lot of grants or applications, excuse me, you know, to get to the grant, you were scrolling through the applications, through the reviews. And 99% of the time, you're looking for the actual grant. But the application will be there. If they have applications, it will be there. If they have reviews, the reviews will be under the applications. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.
Hey, Tina, I have a couple quick questions.
Oh, then go ahead, Dennis. I want them on the recording.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say this is probably a really good example where we're going to ask Dulles to do some training on both from the grantee's perspective and from the grantor's perspective. So this is a good example of a canned training that I think we'll ask you to do. And then I have a question about scheduling. If you showed it, I missed it. Is this something that we can schedule so there's a due date for the signatures and so that it sends reminders to the grantees that there's a signature required?
Yeah. They will get an email alert, but this is not a part of your scheduler.
Okay.
This is not something you can schedule. You have to approve it. You have to go in. You guys have to create it at the grant level. You have to submit it. You have to make those changes to it if you have changes, but you have to submit it into the system first, and then it goes through the approval process. But no, I doubt this will ever be on the scheduler.
Okay. And then negotiating contracts. So I saw where a good example would be I like the way you set it up where it has the user ID and then the signature, so you can kind of check those. If you have a situation where somebody signs in with one ID but signs it as somebody else, you might want to negotiate that. Is there a negotiate? I didn't see a negotiate button there. Or you can
And,
send it back.
and there isn't a negotiation button. Don't think. Let me see. Let me copy this one. Because it's all on the internal side and the signature is the only thing left. So, and I am logged in. So here's my template. I'm going to mark it as complete and I'm going to submit. If I go back to contracts, you can withdraw it, but there isn't a withdrawal. Now I can certainly ask them for that, and we can see if they can actually put it just on the signature portion. It would be locking down everything except the signature, though. So I'm not sure if there's even a capability there, Dennis, since it's just a signature. You know, this is truly the form. This right here is the form. So I'm not so certain that they could lock everything down except for the signature box, the way it's designed, because we've blocked them from everything except signatures. But I will ask. I certainly will. If they sign it wrong, and trust me, North Dakota has had that situation, or they put in a total weird date and they're like, no, that date isn't you can't use that date. It's before we approved it, and they've withdrawn it and they had to go through the process again.
Okay.
But
and then there are multiple approval levels for interior users. Can we have multiple signature levels for the grantee?
Yes.
So if we need signature.
But I want to make this very clear for this recording. And Dennis, we're going to share this recording with everyone. Everything that we're recording, this is what this will go out on your SharePoint, and it's actually on your current version. So we don't have to do this again. Internal users will have access to these recordings, so they know step by step how to use the contracts. However, let me explain this. For signatures, this is very important and key. You must have at least one level of signature internal first. There is no way to notify external people when it's just sitting out there in submitted status. You must be a level 1 internal user so you can notify the external users. You can even be 1, 2, and 3 signatures, and then 4 or 5 can be external or whatever you want. But the first level signature must be internal. Or you're going to have to notify them another way if you make them the first level. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay, good. Any other questions? These are all great questions.
Hey, Tina, yeah, going back to what you were talking about at the beginning of the call with alerts. So does that also apply to like if one of our users would reset a password? Because I know we've had an issue today with somebody was trying to use the forgot password and then they're not getting the emails. Is that why? Because of the issue you were talking about earlier?
Right. Everything is sitting and pending right now on your entire system.
Okay.
So, the forgot password, you're going to have to get a hold of that person and if they forgot it, they may not be able to get in today, not till this is fixed, because your passwords are all encrypted.
Just with the test system, I'm sorry. Were you talking about Iowa grants and the current system?
Yes, I am. Kristen, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So just so
okay.
everybody's aware, I'm talking about your actual current system that you're working on. Yeah,
Okay.
not
And so
just
with,
this one. I mean, that's why I'm saying you want to do some searches and stuff like that to find your stuff.
will that affect both systems then, the
I'm gonna
test
stop
system
the
as well?
recording.